came originally from a migrant family tell me to go back to your country. What will happen to my daughter?
My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. How much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion. Do
you know how much an asylum seeker gets in weeks?
If you needed any more evidence that the BBC was not on the side of British people, then look no further, because on this Question Time episode, they thought we need to platform the most important voices in the immigration discussion. And spoiler alert, it was not the British people. But Zia Yusuf was having none of it. Let's watch.
Don't you think that's strange that it's mainly men? Can you tell me how many children and women have been over?
Well, actually, we have some men in the audience who came over on small boats and are former asylum seekers. So since you mentioned that, let's hear from one of them. So, Ashraf, where are you sitting? Ashraf, there you are. Can you just... So you came over from Afghanistan on a small boat in the last 4 or 5 years, I think.
Yes, I come from Afghanistan.
So was the UK where you wanted to claim asylum? And did you try and claim asylum in other countries on the way?
As you listen to his response, ask yourself, why didn't they bring any of the victims of crimes by illegal migrants to this Question Time session? And also, what do you think his answer shows about the difference between our culture's understanding of protecting women and children?
I applied for asylum. I was a refugee and I passed many interviews in different countries.
So tell us which country did you try to claim asylum in?
My first interview was in Turkey, and the second one in Macedonia, in Serbia, in Romania, Austria, and recently in Germany, but that ain't in here.
So you applied for asylum in all those countries, and they all turned you down?
These countries just reject me, and they didn't accept me.
So what do you say to the woman here who says, why is it the men that are coming, and what about their families? Why did you come on your own, and what about the fact that so many men are coming?
Everybody knows my country is not safe for us. We have a war, about 15 years we are living in a war. Because of that, we come here, and I just want to leave, and because of that I come here.
When you hear Zia's response, you're going to realize why the BBC's plan backfired.
So Zia, when you hear a story like that, for example, do you think that someone like Ashraf, despite the fact he's fleeing a war, and there are many wars around the country, in fact, can't take everybody, they shouldn't be able to come?
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about that particular individual story, so
no,
I'll
sure,
comment more broadly.
But in terms of the principle
I think
of
in terms of broad strokes, let me be clear. If you're entering a war zone, it's generally men first. If you're fleeing a war zone, it's generally women and children first. And the vast majority of the people coming to this country via the English Channel illegally are men. That is a statistical fact. And when people talk about language, I don't know what language people are objecting to. I'm dealing with statistics, I'm dealing with data, and I think that's a sensible way to formulate policy. And I think we should use language clearly. I think we should use language accurately and fearlessly.
Okay, but just to be specific, Zia, because the reform policy is to deport all illegal immigrants in the UK within 5 years. So that would be, I mean, these are real people, that would be someone like you. And that's what you're saying, right? Okay.
If you are in this country illegally, let me be crystal clear. If Nigel Farage is our next Prime Minister, and that's obviously what we're working to deliver, if you're in this country illegally, you will be deported back to the country from which you came. Over 170,000 people have arrived in this country illegally since 2018. Most of that work was done by the Tories, sadly, and that is more people than arrived on the beaches of Normandy, on D-Day. I have used the word invasion before, and people might object to that term, but the dictionary definition of an invasion is an unwanted incursion into a space of land. And I don't know what to describe it. 170,000 people arriving. By the way, what are the countries from which they are coming? They're coming from Syria, they're coming from Afghanistan, they're coming from Iraq, they are coming from Iran, not countries that have a track record of having Britain's interests at heart. The British state exists to serve the British people.
Rest of the panel. Hang on.
As long as the BBC try these tactics, they're going to continue to lose people and create even more anger and frustration, because the reality is the British people don't want people to stay in war zones. We just don't want them to come illegally from France. There's no war there. And this next guy that you're about to see literally epitomizes, I think, what abuses of our system people are so angry about. And again, Zia Yusuf unapologetically gives it to him.
So the man in the white shirt, now I know you also you came over on a small boat. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
What's your response to what you're hearing? Because obviously everyone is talking about people like you.
Well, let me say something first. I just want to clear that leaving the convention doesn't just affect the migrants. It would give ordinary people one less court, less court to protect their rights, even for weekend checks and the government power, risk on peace settlement in Northern Ireland, and damage our security cooperation.
Let me ask you about your situation. I mean, since we were talking about immigration in this program today, we thought, and we would be talking about people like you, we would see if there were, 2 or 3, 4 people who wanted to come along who are in that situation, and I know you are. So you, because I talked to you beforehand, you came from Iran. I just wonder what you think of this idea, because one thing that the government is talking about is if, and a number of parties are, if the countries are safe, they become safe once you have left them, in your case, Iran.
Okay.
Would you be then happy to go back?
Well, there's 2 points which we need to take care about them. First of all, okay, physically, if Iran is safe, the regime changed. There is a regime change in Iran. Okay, that's safe for people like me to go back to Iran. But the second thing, which we need to take care about it, is, for example, for me, I have a 4-month-old daughter. So she born here, and she's growing up here. She will growing up here, learning English, learning how to read and write English, and she won't know how to read and write Farsi or even speak Farsi.
So you wouldn't want to go back with your family?
Yeah, even after, let's say, after 5 years, a government from Mr. Zia reform, which came originally from a migrant family, came tell me to go back to your country. What will happen to my daughter?
Now, again, Zia's about to expose this, but essentially the logic here is, never mind people like Wayne Broadhurst, Govinda Jahal, Rhiannon White, Emily Jones, and other people who've been victims of illegal migrants, we should just have a blanket welcome because this guy doesn't want to teach his daughter how to speak Farsi.
Do you think I'll happily answer that question. My parents came here legally. They did not come here illegally. And look, there's a clear dividing line in British politics. If you're watching this at home and you want to vote for a party that will prioritise the interests of foreign nationals who came here illegally, or do you want to vote for a party that's going to prioritise British citizens who work hard, set their alarm clocks in the evening before going to bed, and toil to pay tax money?
That is not the dividing line. That is not the dividing line in British politics right now.
Do you know how much money the British
there
taxpayer
are other choices available.
Do you know how much money the British taxpayers had to pay for universal credit payments alone for foreign nationals last year? That was £10 billion.
Do you know how much an asylum seeker gets a week?
Hang on, if you're talking, no one can hear.
£49 a week. £49 a week. This is what this man wants to take off you.
2029, British taxpayers will be spending half the forecast defence budget on universal credit alone for foreign nationals. There's nothing about that that's remotely acceptable. And I'm sorry, we will stick up for British citizens who paid their taxes.
Now, the reason why the BBC epically failed in this Question Time episode is because the British public are tired of being told we need to tolerate abuse in order to look nice. And now they might be able to cherry pick some audience members in Dover to clap for them when we really know what the majority of the British public are thinking and feeling when they see this. And now I live in a majority white area, right? It's probably no surprise, like the Uncle Tom that I am. But one thing I've noticed is that the majority of people here really do not care. They do not give a damn about the color of my skin. My neighbors are lovely. Every bin day, they take my bins from the front and put them back for me without being asked. He's been a gentleman, dropped my family to the hospital when we've needed it. And the rest of my neighbors as well. People are really lovely. They all let my kids pet their dogs and they say hello and we greet each other and stuff, even though they don't know me from Adam. And the fact that I'm black literally means nothing to anybody here. If anything, it just creates funny conversations sometimes when somebody wants to point out, oh, my wife's from Zimbabwe or something like that. And it's literally all fine. The majority of British people genuinely do not care about the color of your skin. So when you try to gaslight people in making them think that in order for them to prove they're not racist, they need to turn a blind eye to people like Govinda Jahal and Wayne Broadhurst, Rhiannon White, Emily Jones, and other people who've been victims of our broken asylum system, it just starts to rub off now. Like, a lot of people just do not care and don't give a damn because we know who we are as a nation. And if just asking the question of how do we protect British people from potential threats is racist, then you're going to get to a place where people don't care. In fact, people can't afford to not be accused of being racist because we need to protect our nation. One of the reasons I wear this is because I realize that the problems we're facing today are largely as a result of losing the sense of justice and fairness that have built up this nation. But those values of justice and fairness, they didn't just come out of nowhere. They came from the Christian foundation that God had given us through the word of God. And I'm hoping that as a society, we can return to that so we can restore and protect our civilization.